And the objectives for today, we'll talk about using math, logical, and text functions. We talked about math functions in the prior class, but we're going to get into some more advanced ones as well as other types of functions. We'll get into working with large spreadsheets, doing things like sorting and filtering. We'll talk about and show you how to create charts and graphs from a spreadsheet, and also how to print spreadsheets. And since this is an intermediate class, the agenda is a little more flexible. So if you have questions, it's easier to go off topic in this one. So be sure and ask questions. Hopefully I'll keep some time at the end for questions unrelated to the things we're covering as well. Let's see, I think John just came in. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning, good morning. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to just jump right into Excel. And we're going to start with what I call calculators. I think other people use the same idea, but lots of times if there's something I do frequently that I could do on a manual calculator, I create a calculator in Excel to do it instead. And one of the main reasons for doing that is it makes it easy to reuse it and also to adjust for things that happen after you've done the initial calculation. So this is just an example of a Excel calculator. And this one is to calculate the cost of a pizza party. So maybe I belong to a church group or whatever, and we do a pizza party every Sunday night. And I'm responsible for ordering and paying for the pizzas and managing the budget. So I break it into two sections. One of the assumptions about the event. And so I've got some numbers plugged in. We're expecting 15 people, estimating 2 slices of pizza per person, that the pizza itself will have 8 slices, and the cost is $12, and I'm going to leave a 10% tip. So those are the assumptions. So I want to know, based on those assumptions, what is this event going to cost me? And how many pizzas do I need to order? So let's fill in the calculations down here. So the first thing we want to know is what are the total number of slices of pizza I'm going to need? And this is a formula, just a quick refresher. If anybody needs a refresher, you always start formulas with an equal sign, and then you enter your formula. So in this case, we're going to say I've got 15 guests. So I'll click on B4, hit the star for multiply, and the number of slices per person is 2. So I'm going to need 30 slices of pizza. So based on that, I want to figure out how many pizzas do I need. So again, another formula, hit the equal sign. So I've got 30, I'm going to need 30 slices. So I'll click on B11 where I have the number of slices, and I want to divide that by the number of slices per pizza. And if I go too fast, let me know. So it tells me I'm going to need 3.75 pizzas. When I call my local pizzeria, they say they don't sell fractional parts of pizzas, so I need to order a whole number. I could do this in my head, of course, but I'm going to need this number for some other calculations. So I need to round this number to the nearest whole number. That sounds like a function, and it is. So I will come up here to where the functions live. And I look at the ones we used last time, which are the ones at the top. These are the ones you use most often, but that's not one that's there. So I'm going to click more functions now to get into more functions. And I know I want to round, so I'll just put round and hit enter. And it'll show me all the functions.
It took me a long time because see all those crazy words like, I don't know, things you can't pronounce. But I finally figured out that it's telling me what that is. It's the definitions under, but that took me a long time. That was a pain in the neck. What are they talking about? You know?
Yeah. So these, because some things like, M round, what is M round? But if you don't know what that is, you can click here and it says return to number rounded to the desired multiple.
But some of them can drive you absolutely nuts. And you think, am I talking a foreign language in this or what's the deal?
Yeah. So this is a nice little tool. You can also just click up here in formulas and see the names of them. But as Nancy's saying, the name sometimes doesn't help much. So I like this little tool because you can search by name and you're going to get more than one answer, of course, and then you can check to see. And so, for example, this one says round, and you read the description. That's your classic rounding up and down. I don't want to do that. This is round down.
I'll be
Close,
down.
but I want to round up instead of down. Probably could have guessed this one by the name, but again, rounds the number up away from 0. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to select this one just and say OK.
Okay.
And so it's building my function over here. So I've got the equal sign, meaning it's a function, and the name of it, round up. Now I put in what are called the arguments. And so first is what number do I want to round? And I want to round that one. So I'm going to click on that one. And then it says the number of digits I want to round it to. And I want to round it to 0 decimal places. And the other thing I like about this little tool is it gives you the answer here before you save it. And I know 4 is the right answer, so I'm good. I'll say OK. If it had given me something that I knew was wrong, I could go in and look at my arguments because something would be wrong, or I'm using the wrong formula, the wrong function. So now I know I need to order 4 pizzas. Since I know how many I'm ordering, I can figure out what the cost is going to be by another formula, the number of pizzas I want, times the price per pizza up here in B7, B13 times B7. So I can enter that. 48 bucks. I need to figure my tip. That's going to be equal to the cost times the percentage tip I'm going to leave. $4.80 for a 10% tip. That looks right. And so the total cost is going to be the sum of these two numbers. I've got 2 choices here. I could say equals this plus this. If I like functions and I'd rather do it with a function, I could come up here and do a sum function and sum up those 2 numbers. Should get the same answer, and I do. So that's my calculator. Mainly do this as a quick refresher of formulas and functions, but also showing you an idea of things you might do, because I could have done all this with a calculator, maybe as faster than I could have done it in a spreadsheet. But what happens if I do it with a calculator and then all of a sudden they call me and say, oops, 3 more people are coming. I'd have to redo the entire thing. Now I just come up here and change that 15 to 18. Everything recalcs, and now I know it's going to be $66, and I'm going to need 5 pizzas instead of 4. Or maybe they tell me, last time we ran out of pizza, so you need to estimate more slices of pizza per person. I can do that. I'll make that 2.5 instead of 2. Recalculates. Now I need 6 pizzas instead of 4, and I need to have $79.20 available in the kitty to pay for it. Any questions before we move on? All right, very good. Let's go on. And we're going to talk about even more functions. Let me see if I can get this all to show up on one screen. Why it's there we go. So here's a table, and these data come from a fundraising event. So let's say I'm helping an organization just doing a fundraiser. So these are all the donors so far. And we have columns for first name, last name, street, city, state, zip, and how much they've donated. And the event's not going the way that they'd like. We're not raising as much money as we had hoped to. So they decided they're going to give a free gift to anyone that contributes over $75 to see if they can get the average donation up. So I added a column for free gift, and I now need to figure out who gets a free gift. That sounds like another function. So I'll come up here and go down to more functions again to get my little handy tool up here. And what I want to do is to do an if, and I know I need an if. And one thing this tool does that I like as well is it takes the one you've used most recently and it puts them in the list down here. So most of the time, what I'm looking for is going to be here. In this case, the if is. I could have typed if up here like we did with round a minute ago, but to save time, I'm just going to click the if here. and say, okay. So here's my little tool again to help me put in the arguments. It's building my function up here. So for the first is the logic test. What am I testing? What am I going to base my if decisions off of? And what I'm testing is this number, the amount that person donated, greater than 75? That's my test. If it's true, I'm going to put the word gift in that cell. I put a double quote to tell Excel this is a word, not a number. And so I enclose that in double quotes. And I don't technically have to put anything here. So let's just stop there and see what it does. And I can see it's telling me it's going to put a gift in this row. And that's an $85 donation. So that is the right answer. So let's say, okay. And I'm going to copy this down. And so I'm going to grab that bottom right corner and drag it down. And that will copy that formula down. And it did what I wanted it to do. The ones that are over 75 did indeed put a gift beside it. But I got these ugly falses because if it's false, it says it's false. But it looks ugly and I'm a little OCD, so I want to get those out of the way. Now I could start over from scratch and get my little table back up here, my little tool. But if you've used functions for a while and you know how they work, I know that there's 3 arguments here. The first is the test. The second one is what to do if it's true. The third one is what to do if it's false. So I'm just going to put a column here, a comma there to say I'm ready to enter that third parameter I skipped earlier. And I'm going to say, if it's false, put a space. So I'm going to put double quote, space, double quote, meaning literally put a space in that cell. I'll enter that. I'm going to copy it down a different way. There's 2 different ways to do it. This time, I'm just going to select the range where I want to copy it to and do a Control D, Control down. And now I get the right answers. And for these cells, it's storing a space. You can't see it because it's a space, but it puts a space there instead of the word false. Again, I warned you I was a little OCD, so what I probably want to also do is to center that. And that looks nice to me. Questions about that function? So again, you can look up here and see it. If G4 is greater than 75, put a word gift. If it's not greater than 75, put a space. Okay, so,
when you highlighted that whole row to get rid of false, and then you use the keyboard, could you just have pushed enter?
No, I don't think so. I've never tried to do that. No, it just moves my cursor. See where the cursor's moving down. Yeah.
So you did control what?
Control D for down, copy down is the way I remember. It's C for control for copy and D for down.
Got you. Thank you.
Of course, you can also do, this doesn't make any sense, but you can do Control R for copyright, and it's going to copy it to the right. I'm going to use my undo. So you got 2 ways to copy. You can copy down or you can copy right.
Way.
Question?
Yes. Any advantage of putting a space like you did versus just putting the double quotation without any space? And that way the cell is completely empty?
I don't think that works, but it's an empirical question. We'll see. Actually, the way it does work. I think in the past it didn't, but yeah, yep, you could just put 2 double quotes and it will do the same thing. Thanks, Ray. I learned something.
The reason for that is a lot of times you're doing some manipulation and Excel, if you put a space, the cell is not empty.
Yep. And which is a good thing to know, because there may be some cases where you do want Excel to think there is something in that cell. It has a value. It either has a word gift or it has some other value, in which case you
Correct.
would store a space. If you want Excel to treat it as an empty cell, then you could put the double quotes without anything in the middle. So you could actually make Excel work the way you want it to work based on what you're storing. It still looks the same, but depending on, and that's fairly advanced functions that do handle things differently. Actually, we're going to look at one a little bit later that would behave differently, whether it was a space or nothing. Yeah, great point, Ray. Thanks. Okay, so we're going to keep going. A kind gentleman from Texas said that he was going to help out, and what he was going to do is to contribute $20 to anyone from Texas that made a donation of any size. So that sounds like another if statement. So we'll come up here and grab our functions, and you can see that if is moved to the top of the list since that's the most recent one I've used. So I'll just use that one again. Similar, but one of the differences with this one is before we were testing a quantitative number, a numerical cell. This one we're testing a text cell. So in this case, our logic test is whether this state is equal to double quote TX double quote. If it's true, we're going to add $20. If it's false, we're going to add $0. Okay, I'm going to say okay. And here's my function. Now, kind of getting back to Ray's point earlier, I could have put a space there or a double quote, but if I did, it would mess up some of the other things that I'm doing. So I want to actually store a 0. In this case, since this is a quantitative field that we're going to use for some math later. So we'll, and this is correct. This is from Ohio, so there should be no gift. So let's copy this down. And there's a Texas, and it's got $20. There's a Texas, so it looks like that's working correctly. And so now we need to figure out what the total donation is. So I just need to take equals this plus this, get my total amount. And we'll copy that down. And now I've got my updated donation total, take into account any additions from that kind gentleman in Texas. Questions? And through the form, I'm gonna.
It didn't add the $20 onto it on all of them.
Just if it's from Texas.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So only if it's another person from Texas. So he's just going to match contributions from fellow Texans.
How did you get the $sign up to?
Yeah, I'll show you what I did, and I'll actually show you something else about that. What I did, I just clicked here. This wasn't, and hit the $sign. And it turned it in and it added it. But you'll notice the $sign here has the $sign right by the number. And this one's got it in the far left. If I didn't know how I did that, what I could do is just say, copy that formatting and put it over here. And it would do it for me. But I think I know how I did it. So this wasn't a planned part of the class. But like I said, the intermediate class, I like to go off the rails a little bit. And I think what I need to do is to come up here, come down to more numbered formats, come down here to currency, and say, okay. And oops, that didn't work. Hang on a second. Currency, okay, there. $, 2 decimal places, and you could even, if it was a negative number, you could make it be in red. In this case, I don't have any negative numbers, so I'm just gonna say, okay. Yeah, there. So that did it. So if you want it right beside the number, you've got to go into the advanced ones. If you want to just take the quick and easy one, you can click here. It's going to put the $sign over in the far left. All right, back to the scheduled script here. So things have gone better, and they're going to do a mailing. They want to mail some information out to all the donors. And so they said they need to put first name and last name together so they can do mailing labels from this information. So I say, fine, I add another column here. I'll just select that column and then do a right click and insert to give me a blank column. And I'm going to call this full name. Again, if I go too quick, let me know. And this feels like another function. So I'm going to come up here to functions one more time. And it's not in that list. So let's go down to more. And let's put this over here out of the way so you can see it. And what I want to do is concatenate the first name and the last name. So if I was going to search, I'd search for concat. I've used this one before. So again, to save time, I'm just going to grab the one that's here. I want to use the concat function. I'm going to say, okay, use that one. And here's my arguments. So I'm building my function again. And so basically it's saying, what is the first part of the concatenated cell that I want to create? And I can point over here and say, I want to start with Sylvia. And then I want to concatenate Armstrong. Sounds good. But this is where it's nice to have this little tool because it shows me what my answer is going to be. And I look at that and I say, okay, that's close, but that's not quite right. There's no space between Sylvia and Armstrong. So I can fix that. Instead of putting B2 second, I want to put quote space quote. And now put the last name. And that looks better. So I've now built first name, space, last name. If I wanted to make it be last name, comma, space, first name, you could do that as well. I would just have B2, double quote, comma, space, double quote, and then first name. So you can basically.
Yeah. If you wanted more than one space, you could just keep more space in between there. Yeah.
Yep, keep adding spaces there. And you can see down here in my example, it's spaced it out. So this is nice. You can play with it and see what it's going to look like before you're done. So we're going to say that looks like what I want. So I'm going to say, okay. And copy this down. I'll use the little black plus sign just for funsies. And if you remember from the other class, I can widen that column to match the cell with the most characters in it just by double spacing, moving it over to the where you get the arrows in each direction. You can also manually do that. But with tables, it's typically better to double space because you can't see but the first few rows. If we now have 195 people that have donated, it'd be hard for me to find the name that takes up the most space. So I just double click and it automatically resizes the whole column. And get another little trick since we're going off the rails here anyway. If you want to do that for all the columns at one time, you can just select the whole table and double click and it will resize everything. Now it resized this first one because this row label is in here. So I'm going to put it back like it was. So that's one of the things you have to be careful with if you're putting labels below the table itself. You can that is a risk. So let's keep going. Let's see what else did they want me to do. Okay. So the fundraiser is over and it was successful. They had 235 people contribute money. So now they need to know how many gifts that they need to buy because they know who gets gifts, but they don't know how many gifts they need to buy. Again, sounds like another function. So I put in a area here to put total number of gifts. And I'm going to come up here to my functions and go to more functions. And this one, you might have to search for a while if you don't know what it is, but this one is called count if. Again, if you look at the name, it sort of explains it. I want to count if a certain value is in a cell. So I'm going to count if and say, okay. Scooch this over here, we're going to see. So what I want to do is I want to count if the word gift shows up in that column. So the first argument is what is the range you want to search through? And for this table, it's through here. If I had 295 rows, I'd have to go down 295 rows to the bottom and select that entire column. And then say, what am I counting? And I'm counting every time it finds the text string gift. So I need to put it in double quotes to let it know it's a text string that it's looking at. And again, it gives me my answer here before I hit enter, and I can see that there are 4, so that looks right. So I say, okay, so it's now counted the number of gifts. Questions about functions?
When you went to find your function, you get the little box, but if you didn't, could you say something? Yeah, more fun. Like see where, oh, it's not there because you did that one. But sometimes it says go.
Hang on a second, let me get it back.
Now you need another function, I guess. No,
Huh. Cancel, why? That's
go
interesting.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, because every other time it gave me a clean slate.
Yeah.
So, and this time when I come in, it's
No.
interesting. I don't know why it's doing that, but you know, before it gave me a search.
That could be because you are still in that cell.
Ah,
You are still in
excellent.
the
Thank
cell.
you. Thank you. I'm still in the cell, and that
Yeah.
cell
Oh.
has a function, so it brings me to the table for that function.
Yep.
So if I wanted to edit this function, for example, I could do that. And it would actually bring up the one that I've already got in there so I can edit it. So
Wow.
yes. So yeah, I need to click somewhere out of that cell. Good eyes, whoever said that. Now it should work.
We'll get you educated. Yeah.
I tell you, I
There's the
love this
goal.
class. I learned something every class. So here's where you would search. So if I didn't know that I needed to count if, I know I'm trying to count something, so I could have typed in count and searched, and it has everything that have, and I'd start working my way through, and count if would have been the fourth one there, counts the number of cells within a range that meets a given condition. I would have probably recognized that as the one I want. But yeah, if you're searching for something, you know what you want it to do, but you're not sure what it's named, it can sometimes be tricky. What I end up doing sometimes if I can't find it pretty quickly is I'll just go do a Google search and say Excel function to, I'd count the number of times something occurs in a cell, whatever, create a Google search, and Google knows the answer most of the time.
Dang.
All right. Other questions on functions before we move on? It's been a good bit of time there, but functions are, you know, probably the biggest part. I can't remember if I showed you this before, but just to kind of show you how many functions there are, if you click formulas, there are tons and tons of functions. There are financial functions, there's logical functions, there's text functions, there's date and time functions, lookup and reference, math and trig. Pretty much anything you want to do, it probably has a function to do it. You may not ever figure it out. I have no earthly idea what most of these even are, but again, it's probably in there. The challenge is finding it. It's kind of like finding something on the internet, and the answer to anything you want is out there. You may not ever find it, but it's out there. Let's move on to the next topic, which is working with larger spreadsheets. So here is a larger spreadsheet. These are fictional data, but it's from a hypothetical company, and these are the hypothetical salespeople with their results by month. And so maybe I'm the VP of sales, so I'm going to just kind of look at the numbers here, see what's going on. So I'm going around through the spreadsheet, And all of a sudden I have a spreadsheet that looks like this, and I got lots of numbers, but I don't have any earthly idea what that number represents. And here's another keyboard shortcut. I'm going to do Control Home. It's going to take me back to the upper left-hand corner of my table. So what I want to do is to lock this row. These are my column headers. This isn't data, so I want that to always be there. I'll come to View and come over to Freeze Panes. And here's an option to freeze the top row. Sounds good. I'm going to click that one. I'm going to scroll down, and now as I scroll down through my table, that top row doesn't move. So I've certainly improved things, but I've still got a problem because now I know I'm looking at February 21st, but I don't know what salesperson I'm looking at. So back to the drawing board, I'm going to do Control Home again. And I'm in the right place. I just didn't pick the right one. So I'm going to unfreeze the pane, put it back like it was. And this is really the one that I want to use is this one. And the little icons tell you what it's going to do. This one freezes just the top row. This freezes the far left column. This one will freeze rows and columns. And I can actually pick where I want to freeze it. So I need to first pick where I want to freeze it. And I want to freeze it here. I want to lock all the rows above that cell, and I want to lock all the columns to the left of that cell. So first thing you do is click where you want to freeze, come back with the freeze panes, come to this one, showing rows and columns. Now I scroll down, I'm locked. I'll scroll to the right, I'm locked. So I can scroll anywhere in this spreadsheet and always know which month I'm in and which salesperson I'm looking at and what region they work in. Questions about freeze pane? Pretty straightforward, but very handy. So as I'm looking at this, there's really no organization to the rows. There's just data. So the next thing I probably want to do is to sort this in some meaningful manner. So I'm going to click here, slide this over just a hair, to select the entire table. And I'm going to come up here to data. So I want to work with the data and I want to sort. The first thing you have to do is tell Excel what that first row is. Is it data or is it column headers? And mine, it's a header. So I click here, it says my data has headers. So that's going to tell Excel not to sort that row in with all this other garbage. And then I say, what column do I want to sort by? And I want to sort by region, which makes sense. So I'm going to come up here to region. So I'm now sorting by region, locking the top row. And there's my sort. So it's sorted by region. So now my table's starting to make a little more sense, but it's not sorting by salesperson or anything else. So I probably want to add some additional levels of organization to the table. I'm going to click it again, come back up to sort. And I want to add another level of sort. So I want to sort by region. And let's say I want to sort by salesperson within region. So I can add a level. And I want to add a salesperson. And I could even say if I want it sorted out alphabetically or reverse alphabetically. And say, okay. So now within region, it's sorting alphabetically by salesperson's last name. I look at that and I say, that's good, but really what's more important to me than the person's name is what do they sell? That's what we care about salespeople. What are they selling? So let's change that and make it be by January sales. And I want the best salesperson to be at the top of the list. So I'm going to change it to be largest to smallest. So I'm now sorting by region first, and then within region by salesperson, sales amount, top performer at the top, lowest performer at the bottom, start over for the next region. And you can add other levels as you need them. Yeah.
My OCD visual says I would like an empty space, an empty row after all the east, after all the north, after all. I can insert a row between 9 and 10.
You can, you're gonna have to make sure that when you, and if you're always sorting by region, you could probably make that work. So you could come here and insert a row. And
Oh.
I would probably put east here because I want that to be, but the problem is it's not always going to sort to the bottom. If I'm always sorting by amounts here, it's going to sort to the bottom. But if I sort by name, it might not sort it to the bottom.
Oh,
So there's not, that I know of, a foolproof way to do that.
just to leave an empty space.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just visually nicer to keep it
Yeah, I
separate.
agree. And I can do that, but next time, and if I don't ever sort it again, then I'm good. But if I sort it again, because like now, maybe I want to say, okay, I got a handle on January. What happened in May? So now I'm going to want to go back here and sort it, but I want to sort by May data instead of January data. And now my row, my blank row is probably down at the bottom because I'm sorting by region first. So it just sorted my blank row to the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes down to the bottom, the blank line.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, now there may be, because I certainly don't pretend to know everything in Excel. You could probably spend your whole life and not learn everything in Excel. So there may be some magic feature that I don't know, but I don't know of any way to do that that's sort proof. If you've got it sorted and you know you're never going to resort it, then you can go in and pretty it up doing things like that.
No, then you go in
Wait.
and restart it and not remember what you did and be mad
Yeah.
at the whole things.
Exactly.
Hey, Wade,
Uh-huh.
one way, depending on what you're planning to do with the table, remember you put a blank line where you put east, with everything else was blank.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell Excel that east, the text color is white, is there, but you don't see it.
Okay, I'm not following. Explain that again, Ray.
Okay, add a line after between east and north. And then you put east on that one, right there. Then, for example, just make the color of the last east that you put in white, the color of the text.
The cell, oh, so you don't see it. But it's still going to sort. If I sort it, it's still going to sort it away. If I go back now and sort by, it's going to work for all the numbers, I think. Let's just test this. Go back to data and go back to sort. So if you sort by any of the numerical columns, I think that's going to work. If I end up sorting it by name, it's going to blow up. Unless, let me see, it's going to sort it to the top or the bottom. I'm not sure which, but we can find out. By region and then by salesperson. Okay, so it does, it sorts blank to the bottom, it looks like. So that might work. So as long as you don't want to sort it by, did that work? Doesn't look like that's sorted, right? Oh, it's sorting reverse. So if I sort by salesperson alphabetically, which is what you'd normally want to do. All right, works. Okay, Ray, you get the gold star. That would work.
Okay, teach it again.
All right, let's do it for north. So we're going to come down here between north and south and sort a blank row. Put the word north.
Yeah.
But now click on the word north, go back home, come over here to the
Color.
color. And the last one I used was white, which was hard to see because it was white. And you're going to use white again. So make that be white. So it's there. And if when you click here, you can see the contents is north. You just can't see the contents down here. And so now it looks like that's going to work, and it would sort. As long as you're sorting first by region, it would always separate the regions by with a blank line.
We're smarter than Microsoft.
I said there's probably a way to do anything in almost in this world that you can make Excel do it. Knowing all those tricks, and that's one I would never have thought of. So great job, Ray. That's a cool one. I'm going to put that one in my notes. Okay, all right.
I use it quite a bit, putting a cell with the same color when I print a spreadsheet, because there might be some proprietary information on one particular cell. When you print it, it doesn't print. Because you might want to give that particular piece of paper to somebody, but you don't want to see the number that you use it for optimizing a particular something.
Yep, that's a great trick. I can think of lots of ways to use that one. So it's there, and you can if you click on it, you can see what is there. So it's not hidden. You just don't see it on the screen. You don't see it if it prints. All right. Let's keep going. This is great. Next thing we're going to do is do filters. And here's the filter right beside the sort. And if you click on filter, what this allows me to do is, let's say I'm responsible for the South and the East regions. Somebody else is responsible for the Northwest. So I don't want to see stuff I'm not responsible for. So I can just click here and say, and I can either turn everything off and re-click what I want, or click everything and take it off, but I want the South and the East. So it just shows me the South and the East. It does keep my divider between the two. It doesn't show me North and West. And what it's doing, and you can kind of tell from here, because you can see there's between 10, this row and this row, there's a gap. It goes from 10 to 20. Those rows are here. The rows are just hidden. And if you know how to hide, you can do that manually. You can say hide these 3 rows just by selecting those rows and click hide. So basically what this is doing is it's using that hide function automatically for you. Let's do another example. And if I want to put this back, and it shows me which one I'm filtered on. You can see the icon is different for column B than for column C. It looks like the one up here. So I'm going to click here. And if I want to clear that out, I can just clear the filter and put it back like it was. Let's say I want to just look at certain salespeople. So maybe I want to see this guy and this guy and this person and this person and that one, whatever. You get the idea. So it just shows me those salespeople that I selected, hides everyone else. They're still in the spreadsheet. They're just hidden. I take that one out. Now, lots of times where this comes in handy is if I wanted to maybe filter, and I'm looking for the top 10 salespeople for March. So I come over here to March, and I can do a number filter right here. And it actually has one already written for me, top 10. You can actually custom build these, but it's already got one. In fact, here I can even change. I can make it the top 8 if I wanted to, or the top 12, whatever. Or I could pick the bottom, but I want the top 10. So I just say, okay. And it filters and gives me the top 10 in sales. Now it's not sorted, but I can do that from here as well. I can click here and come up here and say, sort largest to smallest. And now I got my top performers at top, my lowest performer at the bottom, top 10 out of the entire spreadsheet. So lots of useful ways you can use this to go in and sort and filter spreadsheets. Questions on those? And again,
Bet I take this class again.
again, I can clear it here, or the other thing you can do if you don't see the one you're filtered by, you can always just click up here and that removes all the filters. And so you can come back to a clean sheet. Let's see how we're doing for time. Let's move on to charts. This will be fairly quick because charting, especially simple charts, are fairly simple. Like most things in Excel, you can make them much more complex if you need or want them to be much more complex. But if all I want is a simple chart, and this is data from a bookseller, they have grouped their books by genre, and these are the sales for the first 5 months of this hypothetical year. And they want to get an idea of what the sales are looking like, so they know what to order for June. So you select what you want to graph and you come up to insert. And you've got charts over here. And Excel will recommend charts for you. So if you're not a statistician and you're not sure what type of chart you want to use, you can let Excel give you some choices and it will rank order what it thinks is the best option down through other options. There's some options that aren't appropriate and Excel is smart enough to filter those out. For example, it doesn't give me a pie chart. We'll talk about pie charts later. But this one looks pretty good. So I'll just say, okay, I'll do that one. I say, okay, and I got a chart. That quick and easy. I can move it around. You can change the title if you want to. This is sales by genre by month. But doesn't take very much to get a quick chart. What you can also do is click on the chart here, and Excel is helping you out again, saying, here's some other formats you might want to look at. So maybe if you want to have it be light on dark instead of the other way around. Several different other variations of colors and shading. This one kind of has fading colors from center out. So you can look through these, and if you see one you like better than the one you've got, you can just change it, click there, and now I've got a same information, but with a different background, different formatting. So there's one. Let's say I want to add another one. So we'll select here again and come up to insert again. And this time I'm going to fly by the seat of my pants. Instead of letting Excel recommend, I'm going to tell Excel what I want. I want a line chart. I can click here and it gives me a number of options. And so maybe I like this one that has the little markers for each data point. And so it's put it on top of the other one. Let's move it out of the way so we can see it a little better. Let's move this one over to the right a little bit there. So now we can see it. So here's that one. Again, I can select other variations of that chart if I want to. I want this one to look like that, etc. So now we talked about pie charts, and people love pie charts, but pie charts you can only map one data set. But if I wanted to, this is quick and easy. If I want to just look at January and do a pie chart of sales for January, I can do a pie chart for that one. In fact, if I go to recommended, it's probably going to recommend a pie chart as one of the top ones. So I can click here and say, okay, and there's a pie chart. And again, I've got my choices. I could use a similar background to this one so I can be consistent. And there's my pie chart. Again, lots of ways to get more detailed and control what the chart looks like other ways, but mainly just wanted to show you a way to get a quick and easy chart or graph.
It is absolutely the easiest, most fun part of Excel.
There you go. It is
I
fun.
didn't even need, well, you refined it, but I didn't even need you to figure out how to do it. I just played with it and said, wow, isn't this fun?
Yeah, exactly. These are fairly quick
Yeah.
and simple, and you keep playing with it, and you can find lots of variations and things. Because like for each one of them, you can go over here and change colors manually if you want to do that. You can add features to it if you wanted to put a data table at the bottom where it shows the data as well. And you'd probably need to do this where you could see it. But yeah, lots of other things you can do there. I'm going to undo that.
Amazing.
So let's very quickly go into printing. We're not going to have time to cover too much here, but one thing that you may not know how to do. So let's say I like this, and so I want to print my charts. So I go to File and I go down to Print. And it gives me just what I'm looking at on the screen, which is fairly ugly. Plus it doesn't fit. If we have time, we'll talk about that some more later. But that's not really what I want to do. I want to just take my favorite one, and maybe this is my favorite one. And that's the one I want to print. So I can select what I want to print, go back to File, Print, and it's just going to print that chart instead of printing the entire sheet. And you're controlling that here. This is where you can select, and in this case, it defaulted to print just the selected chart. You can even select a section of the cells. If for whatever reason I wanted to print the table, but not anything else, I can just select the table and do the same thing, File, Print. This time it's not going to default. It's going to default to printing the entire sheet, but I can come here and say, no, just print the selection that I picked. And there's just my table. So this selector lets you select a section of the sheet, the entire active sheet, or you can imprint the entire workbook. It's going to take, get this so we can see the bottom of it. 10 pages to print it all, but it'll print that whole spreadsheet or the whole workbook, sorry. And we are out of time, so I'm going to stop there, but that's the one thing that is new to more people than the other printing aspects.